All right, everyone get ready because today we're going deep on skunks. And you guys sent in some really interesting stuff. I'm already kind of smelling some serious aha moments here.
Yeah, definitely.
Ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're looking at a bunch of different sources today, but let's start with this YouTube video you sent over called Animal Fact Files.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
thought this was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, it's funny how we usually only think of skunks when we think about, like, ooh, the smell.
Right, right.
But there's so much more to them.
Absolutely. They're incredibly fascinating animals. A
Yeah.
lot more to them than just that defense mechanism.
Yeah, and speaking of that defense mechanism, the video pointed out something I never knew. Skunks really avoid spraying unless it's, like, absolutely necessary.
Yeah. It's a last resort for them.
Yeah, it's not their first choice, which I found really surprising.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, they have a limited supply,
Oh,
only about 5 or 6 sprays worth. And get this, it takes 10 days for them to replenish it.
10 days.
10 days.
So they're really having to budget that superpower.
Yeah, they have to carefully budget it. Imagine if you could only use your best defense a few times and then had to wait a week and a half to use it again. You'd be pretty cautious too, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They've evolved to rely on warning signals, that bold black and white pattern we see,
Right.
to deter predators before even resorting to the spray.
That makes a lot of sense. So it really is a last resort for them.
Oh, absolutely.
So, okay, let's talk about the stink itself.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So the video mentioned these things called thiols, which are related to sulfur.
Right.
And it reminded me of something. Thiols are added to natural gas, right?
That's exactly right.
Because natural gas is odorless, right?
Yes, naturally it is.
And so they add the thiols to give it that distinctive smell so that if there's a leak, you can detect it.
Yeah, exactly. Makes it much safer.
And that smell is very similar to what a skunk produces.
Very similar.
It's so fascinating to me how our noses are wired to perceive danger through these specific scents.
It really is. It all comes back to how we and other animals have evolved to respond to these potent chemical signals. That rotten egg smell is a very powerful message to stay away.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what those first encounters with skunks must have been like for people,
I know, right?
And speaking of history, one of the articles you sent had this really funny quote from like the 1700s, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
Where this European explorer was describing the stench of a skunk.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically said that Europe was lucky not to have them because they wouldn't have enough tongues to describe how bad it smelled.
That's a pretty vivid picture.
Yeah, it really is.
It's interesting, though, back then, skunks were often called polecats in Europe.
Oh, really?
Because they resembled a European animal with a similar appearance.
So it's like they just borrowed the name.
Exactly, they did.
But what about skunk itself? Where does that come from?
It's got Native American roots.
Oh,
It originates from an Algonquin word, and it translates to, get this, the fox who urinates,
oh, wow.
which, let's be honest, is pretty accurate and to the point.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not beating around the bush,
Yeah,
right?
not at all.
It's just like straight to the point.
It really highlights how different cultures observed and named these animals based on their most, I guess you could say, striking characteristic.
Right. And now even their scientific name continues that tradition.
You're referring to Mephitis, right?
Yeah.
That's the genus name for some skunks, and it literally means a putrid smell from the earth.
Wow.
And the name comes from the Roman goddess Mephitis, who was associated with noxious gases and volcanoes.
Wow. So it's like they're linked to something almost mythical.
Right.
Like their smell had this larger-than-life quality even back then.
It really adds a whole other dimension to how we view these creatures, Their name connects them to ancient beliefs. And it shows just how powerful those forces of nature can be, even in something as small as a skunk.
Yeah. It's really amazing how a name can hold so much history and meaning.
For sure.
But let's move on from the smell for a second, because we've got to talk about just how far they can actually project that spray.
Yeah, they can spray over 10 feet.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you consider they can't see that far.
Wait, they can't see that far?
Nope.
So they're not even relying on sight to aim.
Exactly. They're believed to use their hearing and sense of smell to accurately target the threat.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It adds another layer to how incredible their adaptations are.
It's a good reminder that if you ever encounter a skunk in the wild, staying calm and backing away slowly is key.
Absolutely. Respect their space. They'll most likely do the same for you.
Now, okay, ready for this? So we've been talking about the classic black and white skunk.
Right.
But there are some species that break the mold. Have you heard of rooter skunks?
Ah, yes.
What are those?
The American hog-nosed skunks. They're known for their incredible digging skills.
Why?
And they've got a surprising feature. An all-white back.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
They definitely challenge our usual image of what a skunk looks like.
Yeah, they sound like quite the characters.
They really are.
And then there are the hooded skunks, which can have all white backs or be completely black.
Yeah, a lot of variety there.
Talk about variety, right?
The hooded skunk is a perfect example of the diversity within the skunk family.
Yeah.
They get their name from the long fur around their neck, which gives them that distinctive, hooded appearance.
Oh, okay, see.
Yeah.
So it's like a little cowl.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how much variation there is within this one group of animals.
Oh.
It reminds me of how their scientific name links back to the Romans. And now we're talking about hog-nosed skunks. Makes me wonder if there are any other, interesting language connections when it comes to skunks.
Well, you're in luck because the hog-nosed skunk's scientific name actually comes from an Aztec word for skunk.
No way.
Yeah, it shows how widespread these animals are and how they've impacted different cultures all over the world.
Wow. It's like their story is woven into the fabric of human history and language, from ancient civilizations to modern day.
Yeah, it really...
Who knew there was so much to uncover about skunks?
I know, right?
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break and come back for part 2 of our skunk deep dive, where we'll go even deeper into these fascinating creatures.
Sounds good. It really is amazing how just one animal
I know.
can lead us down so many different paths of knowledge.
Right.
We've gone from ancient Roman goddesses to Aztec languages.
I know.
All thanks to the humble skunk.
Yeah, it's really pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And speaking of uncovering, I was reading about how skunks are actually part of the order Carnivora.
Yes.
Which surprised me because they don't really strike me as meat eaters.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right.
It is a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But carnivora doesn't just mean meat eaters.
Oh.
It refers to a diverse group of mammals
Okay.
that share certain anatomical features,
Okay.
especially their teeth.
So it's more about their evolutionary history than their current diet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Skunks are primarily omnivores.
So they eat both plants and animals.
That's right.
Okay.
But their teeth and digestive systems still reflect that carnivorous ancestry.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder that evolution isn't always a straight line. Animals can adapt and change their diets over time while still carrying those echoes of their past.
Absolutely.
Okay, so where are skunks found geographically? Are they just a North American thing?
They're mainly found in the Western Hemisphere,
Okay.
but their range extends beyond North America.
Oh,
You can find them in parts of South America
got it.
and Central America as well.
So they're pretty adaptable to different environments then.
They thrive in a variety of habitats,
Right.
from forests and grasslands to even suburban areas.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Now that we've covered, their defenses and where they live, I'm curious about their social lives. Are skunks solitary creatures, or do they, hang out in groups?
It actually depends on the species and the time of year.
Oh.
During breeding season, they tend to be more solitary.
Okay.
But outside of that,
Yeah.
some species, like the striped skunk, can form communal groups called bens.
So they're not always the lone wolves we might picture them as.
No, not at all.
It reminds me of how we assumed they were all about that spray,
Yeah,
but it turns out they have all these other fascinating adaptations and behaviors.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it highlights how much we can learn when we go beyond our initial assumptions about an animal.
Yeah.
Their behavior can be complex and influenced by things like
Right.
seasons, resources, and social dynamics.
Like solving a puzzle, figuring out all the pieces that make up their lives.
It really is.
So we've talked about their, science and behavior,
Yeah.
but I'm also interested in, the stories we tell about animals.
Yeah.
Do skunks feature much in, myths or folklore?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While they might not be as prominent in mythology as some other animals,
Right.
skunks do appear in various Native American folklore traditions.
That makes sense given their presence in North America
Right.
and, their unique characteristics.
Absolutely.
What kinds of stories do they appear in?
Well, in some tribes, the skunk is seen as a trickster figure,
Oh, interesting.
known for being cunning and outsmarting others.
That fits perfectly
Right.
with their image as resourceful creatures.
Exactly.
They might not be the biggest or strongest,
Right.
but they definitely have their own, clever ways of navigating the world.
They've got to use what they got.
Yeah.
And in other stories, the skunk's powerful spray is associated with protection and boundaries.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It's a reminder of the importance of respecting personal space and the consequences of overstepping those boundaries.
It's fascinating how those stories often hold deeper meanings and lessons about life and nature.
They do.
Right.
They offer a window into different cultural perspectives and
Yeah.
how humans have interacted with and interpreted the natural world throughout history.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about skunks today,
We have.
but there's always more to explore.
Absolutely.
Where do we go from here? What other avenues of exploration, might we consider?
Well, we've touched upon the evolutionary connections between skunks and other animals.
Right.
Perhaps we could dive deeper into the concept of convergent evolution.
Convergent evolution.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory on that.
That's where unrelated species develop similar traits because they've adapted to similar environments or lifestyles.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Like how dolphins and sharks both have, streamlined bodies,
Exactly.
even though they're completely different types of animals.
Perfect example. It's a fascinating phenomenon that highlights the power of natural selection to shape life on Earth.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder,
I know.
what other examples of convergent evolution might we find when we look at skunks?
Right.
What other unexpected similarities might exist between them and seemingly unrelated creatures? Maybe something like, I don't know, like the bombardier beetle.
Oh, yeah.
I remember reading about how they spray a hot, noxious liquid to defend themselves.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Or even the honey badger, which is known for its incredible ferocity
Oh, yeah.
and ability to withstand stings and bites,
Yeah,
just like skunks can withstand bee stings.
that's true.
Mm.
By exploring these parallels,
Yeah,
we can gain a deeper understanding of the principles of evolution
for sure.
and the amazing diversity of life on Earth.
Absolutely. And it helps us appreciate just how interconnected everything in nature really is.
It's like a giant puzzle, and each new discovery helps us piece together a more complete picture of the natural world.
It is.
And it's a puzzle that never truly ends, always inviting us to, explore and question and discover.
That's the fun part.
So to our listener, we encourage you to keep that spirit of curiosity alive.
Yes.
Dive deeper into the topics that intrigue you, ask questions, and don't be afraid to challenge your assumptions.
The world is full of wonders waiting to be uncovered.
Yeah.
And the journey of discovery is just as rewarding as the destination.
Well said.
Thank you.
Now let's shift gears a bit and explore another surprising aspect of skunks that might just change your perspective on them completely. Okay, so we've talked about skunks being, tricksters and protectors,
Yeah.
and even holding connections to ancient gods.
Right.
But there's one more twist in their story that I bet you didn't see coming.
Interesting.
So we've focused a lot on, how awful their spray is.
Right.
But what if I told you that there might be a positive side to it?
Now that is intriguing.
I know, right?
Yeah. You're right. The smell is definitely repulsive to us. But some research suggests that certain components of skunk spray might actually have medicinal properties.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So, something we perceive as this totally unpleasant weapon could actually have, beneficial applications.
That's right.
What kind of properties are we talking about?
Well, for instance, some studies have shown that compounds in the spray can have anti-inflammatory effects.
That's incredible.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
It's like turning lemons into lemonade, or in this case, skunk spray into medicine.
Exactly.
It makes you think about how nature often works in, these surprising ways.
It certainly does. And it highlights the importance of continued research and exploration.
Yeah.
What we initially view as negative or unpleasant might hold hidden potential, just waiting to be uncovered.
It's a great reminder to stay curious and open-minded. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of skunks,
Yeah.
I'm amazed by how much we've learned.
Me too.
We've gone way beyond that stereotype of just a smelly creature,
Right.
We've uncovered a world of fascinating adaptations, ecological roles, and cultural connections.
It really goes to show that every creature, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has a story to tell
Yeah.
and a role to play in the grand tapestry of life.
And it's our responsibility to learn about these creatures and, appreciate their place in the world and protect them for future generations.
Absolutely. By fostering a sense of wonder and respect for nature.